We're loading. Hello, everybody, and thank you all for coming to our Screenwriters Panel. I am Sarah Vivica, and I am with two very special guests, Mr. Ryan Correll. Did I say that right?
Yes.
And Miss Jada Cox. Welcome, welcome.
Hi.
Briefly, I just want you, whoever wants to go first, kind of explain who you are. I mean, everyone knows who I am by now. At least I hope so. We've been doing this for quite some time now, so I would hope that everybody knows, at least for now, who I am. And yeah, so Jada, why don't you go first? Tell me who you are and why you're here, and yeah.
So I'm here because me and Sarah, we went to the same alma mater, both from Fairleigh Dickinson University, where I have a bachelor's in creative writing. Currently, I'm at Wilkes, pursuing a master's of fine arts in creative writing with a specialty in screenwriting. So I get to work with Ross Clavin, Susan Cartonis, a little bit of everybody. Personally, for me, what I'm doing right now is I actually just did my listing yesterday. I'm casting currently for my short horror film that I'm prepping for to film in October. And then I have a second film that I'm prepping to, I have to do the post tonight. That's a bigger one. It's like 10 characters. So I'm got to cast 10 people for that. And I got to do paperwork for the location and everything, but that's currently where I'm at. I intern for iHeartRadio.
Hey, cool.
I do like a little bit of everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on all the new stuff that you're doing and working on, and I wish you the best of luck with all of that. It's exciting. From the last time we talked, a lot's happened, so cool. I'm really curious to hear more about your internship with iHeartRadio. It should be that must be a different whole perspective. So I'm really curious to talk about that. So, Ryan, it's a pleasure to meet you finally. I've heard so much about you through my lovely counterpart, Sam. So tell me more about you.
Well, I mostly do sketch comedy over the last 5 years. It's a wonderful experience because I got my theater degree in Montclair State University, and I also got a cinema degree at the Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema in Brooklyn. So that's my recent education. I also mostly I enjoyed the sketch comedy because I was able to write and perform as well as do all the dramaturgy and the design. I really enjoyed that experience because I was able to do a lot of different things. And so as a screenwriter, I've been trying to do that lately a lot more. I'm actually working on a series, and right now I wrote the pilot, and it's ready. We're thinking we're going to shoot this thing soon. And then I'm also writing all the episodes following that right now. So that's where that project is.
Oh, that's awesome. I know that when
Sam is working. Yeah, Sam's working with me on this.
Yeah, he is like, he called me the day that he was like, guess what? And I'm like, what? And he goes, I'm writing for a TV show. And I'm like, I think you finally made it, Sam.
Well, I mean, TV shows, there's a lot of them are, don't make it past the very start. So, that's just the hope, because lots of pilots come and go. It's just where we can take this. And so far, I mean, the idea is they want to produce the whole thing, but at the same time, I'm just being realistic and just focusing on the writing. I'm not thinking about the business end of it because I had a friend say to me one time, I said, why don't we try to write a feature? And the attitude was, well, why do that? Who's going to pay for a movie from nobodies? And I said, in response, I said, well, you know what? It wouldn't matter if I don't write it. But, if I write it, maybe it will happen.
Right.
Because it will never happen if I don't write it. So what's the point? Why set yourself up for failure?
Exactly. You got to jump in the pool so you can learn how to swim,
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Ryan, speaking of your show and all of that, kind of give me like the lowdown of like, what's the show about? I mean, Sam kind of gave me a little information, but I would love to hear it from your point of view.
It's a sitcom. Actually, it was an idea that me and my sketch group had about 8 years ago when we first started writing comedy. it was one of those things. Oh, what if we ever had the money? Let's try something. And we wrote it down. And then just recently, I was helping somebody do a script doctoring, and the guy liked what I did. Well, the producer, I mean, liked what I did. So he said, why don't you just write something of your own? And I just found this old idea. It's a sitcom about a baseball team.
Cool.
You know, and you go from the top level management all the way down to the team itself. You have broadcasting crews and stuff like that. And a lot of things are, you know, it's goofy. It's fun. I'm definitely shooting for low budget, I'm hoping. I mean, it's a big budget idea, but we're doing it in a low budget way. It's almost like The Office, but without acknowledging the camera at all, because I don't want to do that thing where they're looking at the camera like, oh, that was really funny, you know? So it's just like that kind of a style, kind of low guerrilla style, looking at this team and their interactions. And Sam's been fun. He's been working. He started off writing a parody of a steroid video for the series. And it was really funny because I said, well, just do something like, I don't know, think of the Dare videos. And he went all the way with it. And I said, you know what? Let's add Muppets. And now
Sam's probably like, yes.
And it's like, there we go. And I said, you know, that's always been a lot of fun. One of my goals with it is there's no such thing as a bad idea. You just have ideas that are used, ideas that aren't used, but hopefully we get ideas that become bigger ideas. And that was a great example of one.
That's awesome. You know, and I think that Sam is, and I hope he jumps on the show, on the call here in a little bit, kind of to see his point.
Yeah, I was a little shy. I realized I don't know anyone. I was hoping to.
I mean, I've known Sam for almost 10 years now, and he's always been this way. And
actually, I met him, again, mentioned a sketch group. We did a variety show. We host variety shows, and he was a fan of comic. And he came up to me after the show. He wanted to do something together. And I was thinking, all right. And I put it in my back of my mind, you know. And then, of course, when this project came up, I said, hey, let's get in touch with that guy. He was funny, and he showed interest in working. And that, to me, is a big deal. Someone shows interest in working.
No one has any interest in working anymore. Nobody wants to work. But that's so interesting. The sense of like that you have this sort of community, like in your sketch group. I think that's such an interesting thing. Jada, do you have that in your screenwriting world, if you want to call it that?
So no, I like to say that because I do more of like, I don't not do sketch. Like I have like scripts where it was supposed to be comedic, and my professor was like, this is really good. And I'm like, okay, like I get bored. I may, get a little bit tipsy and be like, let's play around. Let's see how far I go. So I have stuff like that, but I've never written like, I guess like when you write a little bit and somebody takes a piece and continues and you kind of counter. I've never had that environment. I had that when I was when I first started my foundations courses in grad school, but you kind of learn to work more independently. So I consider myself more of the Stephen King, like just gonna write it and fuck it. So for me, it's like different. Even for like my short films, like I probably won't have much of a crew when I film. I may have one friend and he may just be for lighting and like, hey, like, that looks stupid, go that way. So I do a lot of stuff dolo because it's a great learning experience. And I think when it comes to cracking into like, if you plan to go to Hollywood, because not every writer does, some screenwriters, they just want to get a couple pieces out there, hope it hits the market, and then, chill, because there is a lot of screenwriters where that happens, it gets picked up, they make a shit ton of money and they can relax and they can get into other things, which is usually a production company. I kind of want to come in having those skills. So I do a lot of stuff. I try to be the videographer. I've cut and spliced the video before. I do like a little bit of everything. I have a friend who's trying to teach me animation, although that doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm like trying to get a little bit of everything. So that way I can be able to be like, yeah, like I can do it all. So if when I do get a production company that is bigger scaled, I can literally look and be like, I did your job to a certain point. Obviously, I don't do like the specifics, like the I forget what my professor was at FTU. I think he's a gaffer. He does like the
Gaffer?
lighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, does the lighting
Rigger,
stuff.
gaffer, yeah.
Yep, all those technical terms. I just like say I just hold the camera and the lights. Call me that if you want. If you want to get special, like when you kind of spruce up the words in your resume, I try to do a little bit of everything because that would be my goal. So I don't write on a team. A lot of my stuff, I really don't even let a lot of people read until it's kind of finished. The piece I'm working for now, I'm on the third version of it, and we finally came to a place where it's writing itself. I like to say that's how my writing style. So I just keep writing until it's like I can literally, like, after this, I'll probably end up writing and I may get 4 or 5 pages out tonight because it's at that point where it kind of just takes off and it goes on to its own path. So no, I don't write with a lot of people. I'm like the lone wolf. With other people, but I currently don't write with a lot of people.
I love how that's like so kind of not opposite ends of the spectrum, but I think that this is such an interesting conversation because Ryan, like, have you ever thought about just kind of like writing by yourself, or do you kind of like having a sort of like team where you're kind of bouncing off ideas with other people?
I think I prefer the latter.
Okay.
Because I feel like my strengths, I write, and I feel like I'm definitely passable. Like, I'm not a really good critic of my writing, but I'm actually a better editor.
Okay.
Like that's where my strength is. And I won't downplay that. I'll say, no, that's where I'm really solid. I can take something and make anything with it. I have this, I just feel like a gut sensation. I know exactly what this project needs and I can get it there. And so that's where my strength is. So I would feel definitely be beneficial with outside views coming in, because when I see the outside views, it spurs that thing inside of me that goes, okay, I know what to do with this. I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to do this, and it just, my mechanical mind kind of takes over and places everything where it should go. And so I think that's where it is. I mean, maybe I have written things by myself. I wrote a book of a musical once.
Oh.
Now, it wasn't my idea, though. I mean, yeah, I did write it solo. I wrote every word on that. But at the same time, it's just like, it wasn't my idea of a story. And I said, well, I wouldn't have written this. This wasn't my thought. And I'm not a big fan of musicals, by the way. I really don't like musicals. I got like 3 I like, and that's it. And so it's kind of like funny that I did it. And part of me is just like so detached from this, like, just sell the thing, like make money on this thing. It's not like the passion projects, like a sketch is a passion thing. This project now, it's called Baseballers. I'm not sure if I mentioned the name of it.
No, but
it's the first time I'm mentioning it in any public forum. I haven't done anything like that yet, but it's called Baseballers. I said, what's a dumb name for a team? Baseballers. That's a stupid. It's like one of those things that it's stupid the first time you hear it, but you get used to it.
Okay.
Used to hearing
I love that.
And I said, that's it. That's where I want to go. But see, I wrote most of that on my own. The first 2 scripts, I think, I wrote by myself. But I said, if this is going to succeed, it's got to grow without me. I want a team. I want to get representation. I want to get different viewpoints on this show, because those things are important. And I'm just one person. I need more to do that. I'll stay on as executive producer, showrunner, and my little mechanical mind can go, this can go here, this can go there. But I don't need to be the teleplay writer every time.
Right.
That's what Sam did. Sam wrote something that I had started drafting, and then I said, okay, here's another episode idea. And now he's off drafting that on his own. It's like, you get the first draft, and then it comes back to me. I do my little thing, give it back to you, and we'll do that until we're satisfied.
It's like playing baseball. It's like,
it's like a team sport, I guess. And I always said, if you ever make a success, it's great to do it with a group of people. Yeah. Because you share that. And to me, that's really a very important element to me too, is that if God willing I succeed, I'd have a family to do it with.
Yeah, that's so, I mean, even though like you're writing on your own, like I'm a nonfiction, I write memoir and I write nonfiction, and
I read nonfiction all the time. I rarely read fiction.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm like, teaching a fiction class, and we were just having this conversation on like, are we writing for ourselves? Are we writing for others? And sort of thing. And I was thinking, like, you don't even know how many people are, the supporters in your project. Like, even though you're writing alone, in some cases, like Jada, or I'm writing alone. Like, I don't have other people writing my own story. There's nobody can, because I'm writing about me. Um, but there's so many people, like it's like the crew in a movie. Like there's so many people who are sort of behind the scenes, like holding the light up, for you, or like buying your coffee because you're working and writing all the time.
Even a
Sort of
part of
thing.
writing alone, like what Jada was mentioning, I brightened up at that because it's so true. Sometimes you feel like you're taking dictation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like your characters in the world that you've established are now talking to you, and you're just kind of going with it. And those are the things that you keep the most.
Yeah.
The ones that are
Absolutely.
hard work.
Absolutely, especially if like you've already created this world. But we do have a few questions actually. Andrew asks, what are some challenges that you face when screenwriting? That's the one. And then the second one, I think that's for the both of you. I mean, well, both of them are for the both of you. But is it a challenge writing a screenplay as a group, or more so alone? I think we've sort of touched on that question, but I would really like to know what are some challenges that you faced, and that will kind of segue to the question I have for the both of you. Jada, why don't you start, and then we'll go back to Ryan.
I guess challenges for me, I guess is considering the business aspect. I think especially for me when I was in class, my classmates were like, "I didn't think of that." I was like, "But why write a piece to not hope to sell it?" Like I have pieces and concepts that I don't think are ready for the market because there are certain markets when stuff will sell better. So you kind of want to consider the market you're in currently. Like for instance, if you're a horror writer and you wanted to write a horror anthology, I think now would be the time to knock out American Horror Story, considering its storytelling isn't as tight as what it is. So it's something you consider. So that's always a challenge of figuring out what piece do I want. Like I have somewhere up there probably 2 books of just concepts. So I just literally write log lines and pitches because sometimes you don't need to really fully write the script. You just need those two because sometimes those sell by itself. And if somebody wants to buy that from me, they can buy it from me. I won't write it. Somebody else can write it. I can sit back and watch and not nitpick as much and just enjoy the fact that I gave birth to the concept, but I didn't raise that child. So I want to say the challenges first and foremost for me are always thinking of that when I'm writing. Like for instance, my original script for my thesis was huge. Like it was a huge script. It was a big budget script for a TV show, and I just felt like I don't know if I were to circulate that around if it would get as much attention, or at least somebody may say like, I'll put that much money into it. I felt like it's a second or third script once you get that first script and that first TV show produced, and you start working with the producer, a company, and of course an agent, and then that way you can probably get a better not only budget but a cast list, because who's going to blow up budget and not have a great cast list? So that's a big challenge for me because I had to step back and think of a cheaper, more affordable film, which is usually real surreal TV. Everybody knows surreal TV is extremely affordable. You rent a house, you film it, it's everyday life, as opposed to vampires and witches in space. Completely, completely 2 different budgets. So that's one of my biggest challenges is thinking of that. I guess my next challenge is trying to balance out all the characters because all these cards are characters from one script. So I had to think, do I want to condense it? Do I want to put it to the side? Because Game of Thrones kind of set a standard, I feel like, if you want to go into that realm of screenwriting, that, hey, you can go that massive. People like that because for HBO, they're thinking if people love this, we can take it on for 10, 12 years and it's easy. The story set up, its fan base is already hooked in. They're going to watch no matter what. That's why everybody was disappointed by Game of Thrones, but they watched it. They fed into it. They showed investors like, hey, we can throw $2 million into it. The fans are going to be there. So that's another challenge, is thinking of size in relation to the business, because creative is easy. You can create anything your heart desires. There's always, 2 stories. Thief pickpocketing somebody can be told 2 different ways with 2 different tones, 2 different styles. That's simple. it's really understanding, okay, how am I going to pitch this? Like for right now, I'm trying to draft the pitch for one of my scripts. I haven't even written the script, but the pitch needs to be finished.
Right.
I need to get the synopsis. I need to get all the breakdowns, because if I am asked like, hey, we like this, and somebody calls me, I want to be able to have all my details down without having the script and get paid to write the script. So that's my biggest challenge, is definitely not writing the story I want to be told, but writing the story I think that would interest an audience and make sure, hey, I'm going to get paid because this is going to take off, because that's the ultimate goal. And if if you become Alan Ball and you step back from a project, that's okay. But you rather start and create a long-term effect with your audience, because that's really what you want in TV. So that's my challenge.
Interesting. This is I wouldn't have thought anything like that, because I'm so not there. I'm like, I'm gonna write about myself, and that's it. And like, I don't think about the marketing side of this. I'm just like, I'm gonna write the story, and that's it. And if you don't like it, don't read it. I don't think about the money yet. I will though, when I'm like, still living at home. But Ryan, I would love to hear your point of view on this, because it's a different whole kind of world that you're living in. But in the
Am I living in a different world?
It feels like it a little bit.
No. Well, first of all, we all live in the world that Jada described. It was brilliantly laid out. Like, I'm sitting there going, I'm horrified, and that is scary stuff. And that's kind of the thing, I guess. I mean, in addition to what she said, I guess one of the challenges would be to not let that get you down, or don't let that defeat you. It sounds like a lot, but she covered it very well, and that's all very true. I mean, a lot of things that even with the project I'm doing, I'm just doing it, keeping focus on the creative side. I'm not even investing myself on the other side of that coin. Fortunately, I have a partner who's willing to do that. But that's exactly the thing. I just happen to get lucky and have an angel on this thing. But the thing is, the real reality is what Jade has described. And I think that, I think another one on the creative side of it, at least, would be knowing where to kind of let loose and where to pull back and where you're writing. I've heard some great cliche rules, but they do work, damn it. Like taking 10% off your script every time. Do it. It's amazing. But you don't want to just fall into the cliches either. Again, write what you know. I know that Jada, I think I remembered you from another conversation. Were you on this panel before?
What panel was that, Sarah? I forget what.
I remember you were talking about writing vampires, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I love that. I love that conversation. And so it's just like, writing what you're confident about, but to do it, like not let everything else defeat you. Again, like I said before, somebody says, well, who would give you money for the feature? Well, write the damn feature, because the only sure way to failure is not writing. Right. That's the sure way to failure. So you can have a great idea. I have friends who tell me these wonderful ideas, and the only thing I could think of is write it down. Even if it's like, even in the group ethic, sometimes like an idea will come around and say, just fucking write the thing down. I'll write it down. Somebody write it down. Because once it's there, it becomes something tangible and something that you can work with and reflect on. You can leave it for a month or two and then come back to it, and it becomes something else, because we're always changing. Our interactions with our own material constantly changes. So keeping yourself in a position where you can reflect is very important as well. A lot of people get a little hung up. I like taking breaks and then coming back and finding something new and exciting, So balancing those type of things, I guess, would be, on the creative side. The business side, Jada knocked out of the park. So I don't need to say anything more.
I love this conversation, talking about the creative and the business. And I feel like in some ways, writers forget about the business side of this. I had a rude awakening of that as well.
In our screen, it's not part of our class curriculum, which is something I brought to my director. I was like, I think there should be classes that teach you the business element. But, for a lot of, I think, MFA programs, at least, you are like, for me, I'm in a mentorship. I have to ask these questions. I'm adamant. I'll ask my the breakdown of this, and this. Like, do you think this would sell? Tell me how I should rewrite this to make somebody go, I want to produce that. I want to give you $2 million. that's like my biggest thing, because my classmates, I love all ideas. I think every idea has a possibility of being produced. It's all how you spin it. You know, how do you dress that pig? Do you make it ugly? Do you make it pretty? You want a pretty pig, so people go, "Oh, it's a pretty." They forget it's a pig, and they spend some money. That is the best way to do it. So that's why. Sorry about that. That's why people.
Funny sounding pig.
Yeah, would never sell in the market. The business side just isn't talked about. I feel like a lot of people, you know, we all everybody's talented in their own right. Creative is creative. You know, art, you can't judge art. Everybody has a right to their art, but we always forget, like, hey, like, you're gonna want to give this to somebody, and somebody's gonna want to read this. You can't just, you know, put it out there and assume everybody wants it. But I think in the next 10 years, we'll see it more come into the classroom when it comes to at least for creative writing students, because teachers like me or you are going to start talking about it more, because we know it's something that we didn't have a lot of guidance on, and we kind of had to make our path. And that's usually the hardest being a writer, is how do I get to, you know, how to become Stephen King, if that's your goal? Because a lot of people, they all go, oh, you want to be Stephen King. And it's like, Stephen King came out at a very lucky time when writing was different. It's changed. It's the market's open. Even for people of color, we tend to get knocked down. So it's a lot of stuff that I feel like goes unsaid when it comes to the business, which is why I made it my point to always, you know, teach people about how the business works, because people assume like you just walk in, here's my script, somebody goes, oh, I like that, and they give you money, and it's like, no, you know, doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So
let me ask you something, sort of in the same realm of this. Just the both of you, whoever wants to chime in first. How has COVID really affected screenwriting, the screenwriting process? I know we were talking about, like, you know, submitting your pitches to these producing companies, and I know from personal experience, some of them were shut down for a while. And a lot of shows and movies were delayed. How do you kind of jump into that pool, even though it's sort of on hiatus?
I mean, when it came to COVID, at least for me, it kind of, I want to say COVID gave me time to reflect on how much I really was doubting myself at the beginning of my writing career. Because after I graduated, I definitely took 3 steps backwards and was like, I don't think anybody likes these ideas. So I closeted them for a long time. And then COVID kind of made me feel like, wow, this is some crappy ass TV. And I felt like, because there are a lot of shows where I feel like they only got produced because the writer is known, but they just didn't try. And I get it. You get tired, whatever happens, you know, it is what it is. But I was like, I really want to start, you know, writing my stuff again. So I bought Final Draft, played around with Final Draft, because that's the biggest element that people don't realize about screenwriting is, you know, getting used to the structure of things, because it'll never change that structure. And people who write fiction, they'll always kind of forget and write fiction, because I saw that in my classroom where they'd start writing a novel, and I'm like, no, this is a no. So COVID definitely made me realize how many people had no idea how their TV was made, number one. I had a lot of friends that were like, oh my God, TV's made like that? I'm like, well, yeah, like all of it. Reality has a script. Your music video has a script. Your commercials have a script. There's somebody working behind that person that is being paid to write that. And the only 2 industries that will never die is TV, movies, and healthcare. We will always need both.
And the funeral home.
And the funeral home. Weddings, because people will always spend like $2 million to get married just to get divorced 3 years later. I don't understand it, but those are the biggest industries, I feel like, in the United States. We make a lot of money from TV, even with it down. You know, for when I was listening to, like, for instance, Susan Cartona, she's a producer. She said I think she said last Christmas, I want to say, she said things just took off. You know, they were just planning. She's like, because a lot of people saved the money, they waited. You know, if they were able to pull a plug on a project, they pulled a plug on a project to save it for another project. Or you just collapse it and you think, okay, I can't do Avenger-sized cast like Endgame, where it's like 120 people on that set. We probably won't see that for a little bit. I think they're just getting back to sizes like that on set. But so you go smaller. You think, okay, I can probably sell something with 1 or 2 characters. It's exactly why, for instance, I love talking about, because I just did a reflection on American Horror Story, which I don't hate the series. I'm probably going to sound like I hate the series. I don't hate it. I feel like they got very lazy with their writing and how they create stories. And I think because of COVID, they kind of countered and were like, we have to cut the amount of people we can have on set. But because they did that, they cut the character losses down. So you lose character information, character details. So I think from COVID, it's kind of taught me that you can't mimic that style, even though that's what you're receiving from current writers and current TV shows. You kind of remember eventually this won't last, and that it could take either one of us can sell something. They can say, hey, we're not going to produce it or release it till 2023. All you can do is go, okay, like you just hope for the best. So I think COVID just made me feel like Hollywood's not going to die. Hollywood just finds loopholes and finds ways to produce the work. You just want to hope that you keep your work at a place where you get cut anyway. You have your script, your spec script, and you have the final script, because we all know you can get there and start filming and they can go, this doesn't work, we're cutting it from the final project. And now that's not there. So COVID just made you feel like you realize how unpredictable filming is, how unpredictable entertainment is as a whole, and that, but it is still probably one of the fastest industries that try to get back up and running any way possible. So that meant they had to cut a cast, they had to cut the cast. So that's what COVID kind of, I want to say, from my studying of how different networks kind of catalyst and count back. Like, for instance, Netflix probably was the smartest out of all of them, because Netflix held, I think, 15 or 20 different shows that they put in the trash. They were like, nah, we don't think there's going to be a market. They held them anyway because they have the rights. And what happens? We have a pandemic, and they were able to produce because all they had to do was clean stuff up and put stuff to the side. So my advice is that you can't bet on things being down forever. You kind of have to plan for the other side of the tunnel, because that's the side of the tunnel that's important. So kind of what I've learned is it's better to have, like, that's why I have books on books of like ideas, because all you need to meet is one person. They go, I like your work. They could have friends who are in high places, and you give them one set of book of ideas and you could sell a boatload of work. It can happen that easy. Some people it doesn't. It does. You just hope for the luck of the draw when it comes to being a screenwriter. But that's what kind of I've got from COVID. It's just keep working, and try not to let it affect you, because it's not going to be there forever.
Great.
That's so beautifully stated. I mean, everything is
that's great. I have no words.
It's great. I
literally lower thirds for a radio show host. So I literally, for 4 months now, I had to listen to somebody basically do this every day, every week, I should say. So you get used to it, and you learn to talk like that by accident. It's not my fault.
No, I mean, that's great. Wow. No words.
Yeah, she does a great job there covering those bases, man. Well, I mean,
you're on your baseball team.
The only thing I could say or add from at least my point of view is that the one thing I just miss human interaction on the level that I used to have it. I mean, that's just the nature of this. And I think that takes a toll on everybody as a creative person. I had a sketch group, performed all the time. And now in order to keep the sketch program running, I had to learn audio editing, because we're doing like a podcast. Like, I decided, let's do an audio version of our show and just keep the project alive, which is nice. But boy, I sit a lot. I've sat a lot during COVID, and this whole baseball idea only happened at the end of May that it started. And I'm like, why the fuck did it not happen a year ago? When I had all the time in the world. Now I feel like I really want to rush to get this ready for next year. But it's so funny to me. But I say that again, Oh, and I wanted to add something. I remembered that Jada made a comment about you can't judge art. And that is very true, because how can you judge something that is supposed to be received in a subjective manner? I mean, it's just supposed to touch you. And some people will rub the wrong way, no matter how good you make it. It doesn't matter. You're going to have your critics. And I went to film school, and, I went for criticism, just how to discuss and view the language of film. And I learned there is something you can do to objectively judge it. And it's the kind of job that the creative people should be really focused on, which is there's certain structure. Like what you said, will this sell? Will this be? It's also about, will this communicate? Does it communicate on a basic level? And those are things that I had to learn how to critique. I can say, listen, I might not dig the person's message in their film, but he made a really good point, or she made a really good point. It doesn't matter. They made a really wonderful point, or they made it well. You know what I mean? That's how we had to judge it. It didn't matter if I thought it was a great point or a bad point. Did they make their case well? And does your art excuse itself well? And I think that is in a way that we can be very objective about it. It's like, does it communicate the idea? You don't have to love the idea. Forget all that. Just, does it communicate with you at all? And I think that's the floor, isn't it? I mean, that's what we want, because that's the least that you take. Everything else is aesthetics or anything else that would please an eye or please an ear. But it's like, is it really sound? Is it in its own way? Does it work? And that's all I kind of wanted to add to what Jada had said before. So.
No, I mean, I think that talking about, is your message being projected in the way that you intended it to be, is something that's so interesting, because that's across all genres of writing. I mean, I was a poet for many, many years, and so people don't get poetry, and they're like, what? What do you mean? What are those flowery words you're saying? And so having to try to like convey the message you want to convey in a way that people will understand, sometimes it's difficult. And I think that especially when you're screenwriting, the sense of dialogue and voice and tone, and we were just doing a lesson on this in my fiction writing class, how people communicate to other people. And even as the screenwriter, how are you communicating to your director? How are you communicating to your audience? And I think that's like really important, especially when you're trying to, entertain the masses. But I kind of want to talk about, kind of shift a little and talk about a question that Andrew had. But before that, we have another special guest here. Hello.
Hello,
Oh,
Shanatava, everyone. Happy New Year.
Oh, I'm
Happy
so
New
glad
Year.
you're here. Are you done repenting? Are you okay? Everything's okay? Everything okay at home?
I
I think it's frozen.
think it's frozen.
Oh my God, how funny is that? So anyway, welcome, Sam. I know you're frozen, but we're just gonna go with it. You'll get unfrozen soon. You'll melt. You'll be all right. But a question that was asked from our audience, and I know Jada mentioned this before when answering one of the questions, was talking about how what advice would you give somebody who wants to start writing a screenplay but only has experience writing detailed stories? Like you were saying that some of the students they'll just start writing a novel, which is, I mean, I think difficult in itself as someone who doesn't write novels. But like, what advice would you give somebody who has really no experience sort of doing the structure, or kind of, even in Ryan's case, being in a community of other writers and bouncing off ideas? I know, like we were saying before, writing is sort of a solitary thing. And so when you're jumping into that kind of setting, how do you do that? So yeah.
For me, my advice, especially because my classmates all kind of pine to me, and I'm like, I'm not that great. I have not won an Emmy or any type of awards. I'm in the same boat as you. My advice, because that's how I've attempted to write novels when I was very young. I'm pretty sure I still have the books of the chicken scratch of my handwriting, trying to write a novel, because I thought I was just going to write a novel in a whole notepad and that was going to be the easy. I always tell people screenwriting is very simple. So if you're going to screenwrite, for instance, any of us, you literally put them, what they're doing. If their clothes don't matter, because all of us are, it's 21st century. You can literally wear anything to be in the scene or be replicated in a scene filmed. So you keep it really simple and keep the dialogue. I always tell people you have to think, when you look at TV, TV doesn't exactly sound like we sound. I mean, as millennials, I feel like we sound more like TV than our parents, but that's because we grew up under TV. So we mimic the fact that that is just so much more smooth to the ear. So you talk more. Maybe it's just me. I watch a shit ton of TV, so I feel like I've mimicked how people talk, and I can switch in and out really easily. So I tell people, like, think about how you'd want a conversation to run. What's real to you? You know, is it real that somebody just got stabbed and they're gonna sit there and go, "Oh, okay, that's not realistic. Nobody does that." Sam's about to make a joke.
I'm not saying it's realistic, but like in context, it would be funny.
It would be funny.
It'd be great for a comedy video.
Yeah, if you set it up like that, it works. If it's supposed to be like Freddy versus Jason and that happens, you're kind of like, that doesn't click. So I usually tell people it's very simple. It's very clean, dry. And I know for at least from my classmates when I was in class for it, hey, stop. Sorry.
Stop yelling at your pig again.
Like make his little bed, like. But for my classmates, they kind of like if you go online, there is so much information about screenwriting that is incorrect, and those cliches that Ryan said earlier, those rules, they mess people up. They get very stuck. So I tell people, just there's simple rules. Read a script. That's the best way. Read a script. Like I always tell people, Mad Men, True Blood. There's two more scripts that are really well written. The Wire, because The Wire has a Bible, so you can kind of see how he did all of his crap to get that into a show. Because you learn from reading. That's why most writers become successful. They read a buttload of books and they're able to say, okay, this works, that doesn't, and they're able to kind of mimic that structure that they've kind of read over and over again. Screenwriting is the same style, except we see the other side of it. We only see the produced version. A lot of people aren't going to think, let me look up how they made Batman, which everybody should read Nolan's, because that was amazing script. But that's like, my advice is usually, if you like, my professor makes us do it all the time. That's what I do for my current classes. I watch something, I'll read first, watch it, read and watch together. It's a tedious process, extremely tedious, but I want to say it's kind of made me stronger as a writer, and it doesn't make you rely as much on those cliche rules, because you rely on those because you have no idea what it looks like. So when you read it and then you think about the rules, you kind of realize I can pick and choose the rules. There's also a buttload of different styles. Like there's montages, there's phone conversations. You can write the phone conversations 3 types of ways. There's so many little details to it. I always tell people, keep it simple and then kind of branch off and kind of learn. But if you like a show, watch, read it, read and watch, kind of look and see how things change.
Can I ask a question?
I mean, Sam, I'll let you talk. You haven't been here.
I haven't been here. Do you subscribe to the Script to Screen YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think I have it. I have like 10 emails. All have their own YouTube channels on like different devices. So it's I watch a lot of different.
The CIA can't follow you, Jada. You got 10 different accounts floating all around.
It's just one of those things.
I got like 6, so I know the deal. But I do want to add something, because she did mention, like, go online and you see a bunch of people making suggestions and there's a lot of wrong stuff out there. That's very true. But also, I like to think that even the people who have a lot of the right stuff and all the right information, I kind of like it like this one person tells you exactly how to make a perfect lasagna, and this other person tells you how to make a perfect steak. You know what I mean? And all the different things, because it's almost like there's so many different ways to do things that work for whatever your project is, or how you work, or what you want to make out of it. So I'm thinking in a way, like, you know what? Advice should always be taken. Like, you're looking at a bunch of recipes and which one will work for what dish you're making. Take everything with a bit of salt. I hate to use any more kitchen puns, but that's just, that's the way I see it, is that the truth is usually, somewhere in the middle of a bunch of different ideas, and you'll start to pick in, and you'll find that a lot of things work for you that might not work for somebody else, and vice versa. Some people are method actors and that works for them. You know what I mean? But a lot of the other actors laugh at them. Like they don't they don't like the method thing, and I understand why. I mean, I've been on stage with a method actor. It can be scary. But it works for them, and they do some great stuff, and there's some great method acting out there. So it depends. There's no one way to cook. You can do it different ways. That's all I wanted to say.
I love your kitchen puns more than anything. They're
I've
all
spent a lot of time in the kitchen since COVID, to be honest.
I love it. I love it so much. Sam, I'm so glad that you're here and not melting. You were melting, and I'm so glad you're alive. And
I'm not melting.
So, do you want to answer that question as well?
What was the question? I literally showed up.
Okay. What was the question? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, actually, I kind of forgot the question too. I just kind of gave an answer.
We got a lovely question from Andrew asking, what is some advice you would give to someone wanting to write a screenplay that traditionally only writes like detailed stories via like novels or poetry? Or, I mean, especially from you, since you, were a poet first. And that's an interesting point of view.
So I think for me, one of the things about my writing process when it comes to screenwriting is I write. It's not that I write. It's not about writing too much. It's writing the important things. One of the things that they always tell you in poetry is you're trying to do the most you can with the least amount of words. And I found that it does lead to a good translation in some areas, in the sense of I don't need every single word in there. I don't need every little detail of how a character looks or this or that. I want enough where I know that the director can understand what's going to happen, and the actor can, without overwhelming and constricting things. Like one of the things that Jada brought up was the Batman, The Dark Knight, and one of my favorite parts of that is as you look at it, if you follow along as the movie's happening, they kind of go in and out of what's originally supposed to be happening, and that is credit to the actors and to the director. They never go so far out that it's completely in left field. But because there's enough wiggle room, they can do what works. And I think for me, that's a really big thing. And then the other thing is, I do this, always just check around your idea. Like before you're writing, kind of hear what you want. Because you never know. You may go through this whole concept in your head and you put it to paper and it just doesn't work the way you want it to. So before I do anything, I tend to ask, hey, is this idea stupid? And if the answer is no, I'm good. I can keep working.
Don't stop there though. Sometimes when the answer is stupid, it might be a gold mine.
Hold on.
If you spend one late night watching Adult Swim when we were children,
oh my god, it was the worst.
It's a stupid idea.
I love those ideas. No,
that's what I'm saying. But they were definitely dumb ideas that somebody was like, "That's stupid, bro." He was like, "I'm gonna write it anyway."
No, my favorite.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I never enjoyed Adult Swim until I started smoking pot.
Yeah.
I didn't get Opportune Hunger Force at all, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, I get it, man."
That show made me realize anything that you actually put hard work into and charisma as a writer, because you're not only selling your work, you sell you. I think can be produced. But Sam, continue.
It's my favorite thing to do because I will call my friends. Sarah, you've gotten this call. I'm pretty sure Ryan, you've gotten this call. I have this idea and I think it's dumb. Can I do is it the right kind of dumb?
Mm-hmm. And usually I say, sure, go for it.
And
usually,
yeah.
I'm like,
My word is, again, like I said before, put it on paper, man, and see what happens, because, I love stupid ideas. I love to get my hand on stupid ideas and
remember
figure out what.
Scary movie.
Scary movie.
What? Epic, the big movie with Kim Kardashian, and it was like.
Or was it? What was the one with Paris Hilton? That was a horrible one too.
That was a scary. That was one of the scary movies. Yep. So any of those, 3 or 4, any of those were all considered. Yeah, they were all considered. For the raspberries, I forget what it's called. I think it's called the raspberries, right?
Razzies,
Yep. All those got at least 1 or 2 Razzies.
Oh wow.
Well,
So-
the first two were the Wayans brothers, and then the other two were the Zuckers. Which
Yeah,
was
it
like-
changed. It changed
Yeah.
completely, and then
And I thought the first
decided-
scary movie was good, and I thought the third scary movie was good. And I
I
thought the
love the
other
third
they
scary
couldn't
movie.
either team could never follow up the first installment. I thought it was so funny.
I thought the first was good, but it like started a culture because Damon Wayans just did one after Paranormal Activity 4 years ago. That
Yeah.
was like everybody's like, oh my god, like Damon Wayans. He did I think a few more because then he had the other one that was based off The Purge with Mike Epps. So trust, there are no stupid ideas because everybody that's considered creative in our time is like, hey, that let me make a mock of Batman, let me make a mock of Superman. So I think starting from considering that those ideas, they're not simple ideas to come up with, they're hard to sell, but I definitely think like you're coming up with something purely like out of just pop in your head, it's never a stupid idea. It just it's different.
I'm also in sketch, so stupid ideas are my trade. Like,
I was
is this
gonna
idea
say,
stupid enough? Is the question we ask.
what was it? Last year, I was like, all right, I have the stupid idea. I want to put my face into an app.
Oh my
and
god!
I'll
yes.
sell it. And so I made the Sam's dumb face thing, and then the thing I'm working on now is putting that into a dating app of a cardboard cutout that will send you instead. Is this cardboard cutout like sick of dating? Just get Sam's dumb dating app, and we'll just send you me. You're welcome. Dating's over.
Well, can you use some AR technology and then have a kind of just appear in the picture with people? Is that we?
That would be so good. If technology was there, it would have happened.
Well, speaking of Sam's dumb face and all of his great, wonderful projects that he's been working on, I wanted to plug Second Renaissance Arts, which is not a stupid idea. It was great. But there's a banner below. We have a Venmo, and we would love if you could send us a tip. And not like an advice tip, like a cash money tip. That would be even great. I mean, personal advice is great too. I mean, I do enjoy that. But money also is great as well. So if you feel inclined and you really love this panel that we're having, feel free to jump on our Venmo and send us a tip.
How much should a tip be, Sarah?
Well, Andrew says it should be $1,000, but but this week I got minute rice as a tip, so anything can be a tip. Minute rice, you can also
How much
send
does
that.
minute rice sell for?
$3.75. So
I will accept that.
$2.79 at Walmart. Okay.
okay,
Great
I
place
get
to
my
go
rice
to,
from
okay?
ShopRite.
You gotta go to Walmart. I swear, I have so many stories of just going to Walmart. I've seen monks at Walmart. I've seen nuns at Walmart. I'm pretty sure she was some kind of circus person. I've seen her at Walmart.
You've
The
seen
people of Walmart are all circus people. So
yeah, I'm from Union. We're like not central, but central. Everybody comes through us, and they do steal cars. I've seen that. Somebody got murdered. Happened. Somebody claimed they saw aliens. Happened.
Good writing material. Great.
All at a Walmart?
All in a Walmart. Hey, that could be the next film. There you go.
Yeah, our Walmart was terrible. We had the rape van where they were picking up people. That happened at our Walmart. Yeah.
Jesus.
I have friends who drive on the highway that go, I would never drive again in your town because of your highway. So yes, my town is full of stories.
Or go to your Walmart. I'm not going to your Walmart.
I'm afraid. Jade, are you okay?
Yeah.
Is everything okay?
I live by 22.
Oh, okay.
Jada, blink twice if you're in danger.
She has a dog. She's fine. But just to go on to my next question, I don't think that we've been talking about different screenwriters, different directors, different producers, but I'm curious to know what your favorite screenwriters are and what movies really inspired you to be like, I want to do this. Yeah.
Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
Quentin Tarantino. That's Samuel L. Jackson protected this man when people came for him for using the N-word, which is safe to use in any type of creative piece, because if you're showing a reflection of the time, even now, there are people saying the N-word down the street. Like, it's whatever. It's a word. I love him. I think he's great. I think he's very diverse. My favorite piece of all of his is Kill Bill. I didn't tank that idea that was inspired by Kill Bill. Again, a massive project because it's basically assassins in space. So I think that those type of projects become monstrosities. So it's something you hold and you wait until you're like, all right, I have the perfect set of investors who will give me like $6 million. And if it flops, it flops. But that's who's inspired me to be a writer, because I feel like Quentin's done so much stuff. Like, Quentin was an actor. He started From Dusk Till Dawn, which I love. It's one of my favorite vampire movies ever. Nobody knew that. Everybody's like, Quentin was in that? I'm like, he's the brother. He looked weird as hell, but he's a good actor. He can direct, he can write. He's written like horror. He's written Pulp Fiction, which hella people have posters of and they don't even know who the hell he is. Quentin Tarantino is my favorite because people say his name.
Kids these days don't know about it, man.
They don't know what the movies are. They only know the guy who made Avengers, which I forget his name on purpose because I don't hate them.
I'll be honest with you, I don't like Marvel movies either. I'm gonna put that out there. Thank you.
It's just a waste of funding. It's like, come on, guys, like, cancel them. So
it's ruining the market. It's ruining the market. It's all based now on the $1 billion picture idea. Like, it's been, but I mean, it's been snowballing. I wouldn't lay all the blame at Marvel, but I definitely feel the one thing about Marvel that bothers me the most is, remember Sam Raimi's Spider-Man movies?
Yes.
God damn it. If I can't remember exactly the staging and the imagery and what was said in certain scenes, like to a T, even if I haven't seen it in 10 years, right? But I can just finish watching the new Spider-Man and not remember a single shot. I do like Michael Keaton's performance. He's the one thing that I remember visually. But apart from him, I don't remember anything. It doesn't hit in the way that cinema should, in my opinion. Again, there's nothing wrong with a blockbuster film. And Marvel is a great blockbuster film. It's a great waste of 2 hours if you just want to sit there and enjoy flashy lights. And that's great.
For 2 hours. Blade Runner is a much better movie for your time. It's much better, but it's a different market. Blade Runner had authentic fans versus like Marvel, which has authentic fans from comics, and then the kids love it, and it becomes a wolf. And then I think it kind of alters how investors pitch and take projects because they're thinking, who's my market and how much money can I make from this? Yeah. Which is why a lot of writers, they'll think film is where it's at, but film is tough because most writers sell off all rights to their films. A lot of people never think. They think, well, I see their name. You don't know if that's the actual writer because there was, I forget her name. And I was just doing a piece about her. She's written other pieces. She was never given credit for her piece. She's on any of the, like, you watch the film, her name doesn't pop up. She wrote a quarter of the script, but because they changed everything, she doesn't get credit for it. So I want to say people just don't understand how much goes into actual, let's get this out, let's do that. That's why when people complain about how mediocre films are, I'm like, yeah, but you guys were okay with sequels, like the Men in Black sequel, trash. So many things that because Marvel kind of made people believe that people want to see these kind of films, and then it just, it's at its end. I want to say it's at its end because you just can't have that many people on a set anymore. You can't have 200 people on a set. That doesn't work anymore. Most states, most countries won't even let you send that many people to a set like that. So,
right. No. Again, it's not like it's Marvel's necessarily fault, but it is this trend, this troubling trend. I think that people have the right to criticize the most, because again, as I said, I remember watching these when I do see a Marvel movie. It's not like I'm not entertained or like I'm not sitting there bored out of my brain, but at the same time, everything is becoming the Marvel cookie cutter factory thing. Like one of my favorite movies of recent memory is Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and fuck all, people lost their minds over that movie.
Love that movie.
Yes, I thought it actually brought the blockbuster to the level of artistry.
Yes.
And they trashed it. People trashed it online, and I understand why. Listen, you can hate anything you like. I'm not going to tell you to love it, but at the same time, is that in response we got The Rise of Skywalker, which again, I forgive a lot of it because I happen to like the characters from the previous films. But again, you can just see already the Marvel seeped right in. And everyone's always asking online in these forums and talking about movies. It's like, how can DC be more like Marvel? And the best choice is be the opposite, or don't be the opposite, just be you. Because being opposite means you're also being influenced by the source, you know? So you just want to be you. Now let's get back to the original question, because I don't remember it. Who's your favorite screenwriters? Who inspires you? As you could, I mean, I'm an old schooler. I fell in love with old films and old comedies. I mean, I have Lauren Hardy up here. I just fell in love with old films. I love old films, and I could pick a dozen of things. And I'm, of course, sketch comedy writer, so I love Monty Python as writers and performers. I dig what they do and how they've written. But when it comes to, like, you know, maybe what inspires me in terms of just writing and wanting to do something different, I would like to mention two writers. Is Patrick Mcgowan, who wrote the series The Prisoner back in 1967, and also the aforementioned writer of the aforementioned Star Wars Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. He's my more modern guy. And one thing that inspires me the most is that they really did defy a lot of what was expected of them in both of their projects. But they were also both very deep and subtle in ways. They would be big in one way, but the subtleties that lie underneath are fascinating. And those are the things that make it worth discussing. And so, I mean, if you've never seen Patrick McGowan's The Prisoner, I think during COVID, it was a necessary for everyone because it kind of talks about the way being trapped is, you know, but it's also trapped in society. Where do prison walls end? You know, but he took this show that had set up this great mystery, like who is number one in this thing, and he just said, "This is number one." And he, you know, according to him, he was run out of town for doing that. He put on an hour that was basically you expected one thing, well, fuck you, I'm doing this, and it really upset people. But God damn it, is it not beautiful? You know, because what other ending could this show have been? If it was the cliche ending, the expecting some evil guy with a cat on his lap, you know, it's not going to reward you. So it doesn't matter at the end. Just do something, you know. And he made a very bold statement. Is it a little weird and is it wonky? Hell yeah, it's bizarre. I think he wrote it over a weekend. But it's like, it still had that message in it that I think sells it to me. And the same can be said of Rian Johnson. I'm looking forward to his new Knives Out movies. I'm just floored by him. And I think that's so wonderful, the things that he's able to do. And also get trashed for doing it the same way as Patrick McGowan. But I respect it, you know, and that's kind of where I'm at. And I think they inspired me the most when I wrote the book to that musical, because it's a musical about schizophrenia. You know, the lead character suffers with legitimate schizophrenia. Not my idea for a story, not something I wanted to write, but I did a hell of a lot of dramaturgy and put myself in some dark places for a few months on that, because I had to see the most heartbreaking stuff and learn the most heartbreaking stuff about people who suffer real. And they wanted to put a happy ending on it. And I kind of, you know, echoes of Rent in my mind. I want to avoid that. Yeah. But we did do something. I said, this would be smart. Why don't we, you know, give it a nice, great, big musical number at the end. Everything is great. You know what I mean? And at the very end, we just take the piss out of it in like 3 seconds and then lights out. You know what I mean? Because the idea is that the guy, she said, well, why don't you just make him happy, you know, at the end? I said, sorry, honey, he suffers with schizophrenia. There's no cure. There's no cure. And that's the truth. Yeah. These people do not stop suffering. They just learn how to deal. And that's basically what I told the audience, because at the end, a song from earlier said, you know, there's some kind of weird little lyric, and then it says, tell them what they want to hear. It's part of this lyric from a previous darker song. I said, why don't we end the show with just that line where the character looks at the audience and says, we're telling you what you want to hear, but this is fucking bullshit. Wow. There's no happy ending for this person. It's going to be a struggle for him. And I make that clear. There's also little Easter eggs and nuggets that, I don't tell you outright. You got to figure out on your own just how deep the rabbit hole for this guy goes. But that's the type of stuff that inspired me when I wrote that. I said, you know what? You got to give the finger. Sometimes this is number one.
Yeah.
You know, the solution to the problem, because sometimes you just can't please everyone anyway.
Absolutely. That was beautiful. Beautifully done. That was great. You know, like I think that as writers we don't think that way, and I think that's how writers like you, Ryan, and Jada, and even Sam, I think that's how we make things new, and that's really what the audience wants. They want something new. They want something interesting and a discussion worthy. Maybe sometimes maybe not politically correct, or something that we can talk about. But just with a final question. And I think I'll go with everybody.
Did Sam get to answer the last one, though?
Sam,
I don't think so.
I didn't.
Sorry. I've been so used to you not being here. So go ahead.
I'm gonna keep my answer short. So, there's a few that I really very much enjoy. First off, going back, because again, I always grew up around comedies. I love Mel Brooks. We'll start there. You go all the way back. Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, which, by the way, is a movie that could never be made today, unfortunately. Blazing Saddles would not be the success today that it was back when it first came out. The History of the World Part 1 is one of my favorite. No, Part 1. There's no Part 2.
That's the
they never made it. And it has that kind of format, I think, of comedy you don't see as much anymore. And I think that it was very much willing to be daring and to call out a lot of parts of our culture that people aren't as comfortable like calling out anymore. I think like one of my favorite is at the end of History of the World Part 1, they're doing a Here Comes History of the World Part 2, and thank you. They're not mine, they're my dad's. They're all Norman Rockwell's.
Oh, cool.
But it's but it ends with, and now in History of the World Part 2, it's gonna be Vikings, this, and Hitler on ice. And I don't know why, but in my brain, it's one of the funniest things in terms of just a visual gag that for him was a throwaway gag. It's to Mel Brooks, it's a throwaway gag, but it sticks in my head so vividly. The next one is Guy Ritchie. One of the things I love about Guy Ritchie is that he can take 5 or 6 different stories that have nothing to do with each other, and slowly you begin to find the connections between them. If you've never seen the movie Snatch, it is at the beginning of it, these characters have nothing to do with each other. And by the end of it, one character's interaction changed the entire movie for everyone else. And the idea of that is just, there had to be so much planning and character development all separately and at the same time that it takes a lot to kind of write how you want to see that happen. And the last one, I will say that I acknowledge the Marvel movies for what they are, which is but the best thing that Marvel did was bring in Taika Waititi. As a writer, he has an ability to make a real connection on characters that people normally wouldn't feel connected to. If you've never seen Jojo Rabbit, I love Jojo Rabbit. It is both hilarious and heartbreaking, and it looks at the struggles of war honestly from the perspective of a child who was born believing that he was on the right side of history. I don't want to spoil the movie, but for those who don't know,
the trailer.
Don't spoil the movie.
For those who don't know, the main character is a 10-year-old boy. He's a Hitler Youth member, growing up during World War II, and there are specific moments in the movie where you see kind of the challenge of his worldview being pushed against by everyone else. And I think that to do that while still keeping the lightness of it's still a 10-year-old takes a lot of skill as a writer. And I think also, if you've ever seen it, and you should, the ability to make the character of Adolf Hitler as an imaginary best friend takes a lot of like very specific writing to make sure that you don't upset people. And my last one, I wasn't going to say it because technically he did screenplays. He did like stage for a while, and he put out like his first ever independent personal thing was, if you've not seen Inside by Bo Burnham, that is one person working really hard to write a full show over a year that very distinctly shows the decline of someone's mental health during the pandemic. And part of it is his actual experience, and part of it is very well thought out writing and kind of controlling what he wants us to see and how he wants it during different parts to look. So those are my answers. Tried to
They
keep
were
it
great.
short.
I'm so glad that we didn't skip over you. I'm so sorry that I did that.
It's okay. Ryan has my back, which is all that matters.
Thank you, Ryan. You can host the next one. But I think that covers everything. I mean, I was like, I think we're gonna have a final question. But I think that even with that, like, you kind of covered everything I had. So thank you so much, Jada, and thank you so much, Ryan, and Sam, of course, for being a part of this. We're going to be having our balcony chat, right?
Balcony chat's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. And who is that again, Sam?
It is Shanalyn DeVita. She is a writer. She is a photographer. She put out a wedding planning book this past year.
Oh, very cool.
She's very impressive, and I'm very excited to have her on.
So please keep an eye out for that. And if you have any panel suggestions, please email me or Sam, or write them in the comments on any of our social media, and make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And Jada, where can we find you in any of your events that you're going to be doing, or when your show comes out, or anything? Or
So I put most of my announcements on my Instagram, which is at the other underscore Jada, or jadacox.com, which is my website. So all my short films will end up there eventually. And I'm also launching a podcast, but I don't know when our first episode will release. That probably won't get released till October, and that's going to be a fitness based one with me and my friend. So we talk about everything fitness, health, because I'm in school right now to become a nutritionalist, but I also have a PT certification. So
okay, what else are you doing?
So it's a compilation. So I'm hoping to finish my Gym Rats, which is my short film on gym stereotypes, and then launch that. And we're like trying to throw a party for it and everything. We're trying to like do the work.
Well, let us know about that so we can advertise and we can support you in that. Absolutely. Ryan, where can we find you?
Well, you can find my sketch comedy group, Dog Show, at facebook.com/dogshow comedy. And then you can also find us at youtube.com/dogshow comedy. I thought that was very easy to remember.
Yes, it is very easy to remember.
I also have a fledgling Facebook page for my production company called Green-Eyed Monster Productions. And that will be coming up that's where I'll get all my baseballers information out, probably through that. And hopefully I'll start getting people to follow the page as I do that. But right now it's just fledgling. I have nothing on there.
Awesome. Well, let us know, and we'll love to advertise your stuff and get our followers, your followers. So again, thank you all so much for being a part of this. And I hope to see you at maybe the next one that we do. All right.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.